They are a part of a £3 billion upgrade to the London Underground. 94 new Piccadilly line trains being made in Vienna that will replace the 50-year-old fleet. But just a few hours after the first train arrived in the capital, it had been vandalised, covered in graffiti in the early hours of yesterday morning. Our political correspondent Simon Harris reports.
It should have been a moment to celebrate the arrival in London of a brand new tube train. The first of 94 bound for the Piccadilly line was towed from a factory in Austria. But by the time it reached the depot in West London, the gleaming paintwork had been trashed by vandals. I understand the freight train delivering the new tube had stopped at a red signal in Battersea. It was there the vandals struck, spraying 2 carriages with graffiti. The delivery train was attacked in the middle of the night. It's thought it was tracked online as it made its way across Europe.
Apparently there are gangs that are setting out to do this. This is what they intend to do. They track the trains and then graffiti them when they can. It must be costing TfL and therefore us taxpayers a fortune.
The trains are part of a £2.9 billion Piccadilly line upgrade. The first batch has been built in Vienna, but most will come from a factory in Yorkshire, which was opened 2 weeks ago during a visit by the Transport Secretary and the Mayor. TfL doesn't comment on graffiti for fear of encouraging copycat attacks, but trains have long been a popular target and most Londoners have become used to it.
I don't really notice it. I mean, I've been in London all these years. They're all graffiti, didn't they? Yeah, so, yeah, it's not nice.
If it's good, I don't mind. If it's just a black splodge, then it's ugly. But, but I can understand that, it costs a lot to remove it, so I can see a point for, doing something about it if possible.
Obviously, I don't really want to see things that are racist or anything like that, but I think that maybe graffiti is a bit more of a fun thing than people think it is.
Graffiti? I don't mind. No, I wouldn't mind at all. Makes the train look nicer.
On some lines, depot staff are engaged in a non-stop battle with the vandals. TfL doesn't have a precise figure for how much it costs to repair the damage, but it's said to be millions of pounds a year. British Transport Police has launched an investigation into the attack on the new train. Simon Harris, ITV News.
The late debate returns tonight with the highs and lows of Labour's first 100 days in power. Our political correspondent Simon Harris is in Westminster now with all the details.
On tonight's programme, we'll take a closer look at what the government's green energy and planning policies might mean for the green belt around London. I'll be joined by a triumvirate of parliamentary newbies, including the Conservatives' only new MP in London and one of the MPs who captured a Tory seat in the new Lib Dem stronghold of Surrey. Plus Sir Keir Starmer's first 100 days in Downing Street, Taylor Swift and all. And we look ahead to the Labour government's first budget. That's the late debate here on ITV1 after news at 10.
Next, they are needed to carry energy that is described as clean and green and enough to power 6 million homes. The plans to build a network of pylons through the Essex countryside are worrying residents, businesses and those who like to enjoy the area's beauty. Campaigners are calling on the government to change course on the plans. However, the Prime Minister says it's the only option if people want to lower their energy bills. Here's our political correspondent, Simon Harris.
Golfers enjoy a challenge. Avoiding bunkers or keeping clear of the rough is all part of the game. But at Orsick Golf Club in Essex, members could soon face a new hazard: giant pylons.
The power lines are coming across in such a position, just 140 yards in front of this elevated tee, and the elevation of the tee means that everybody driving from this tee will be hitting through the cables because of the sag as they go across the fairway.
The new pylons and power lines will run for 115 miles from Norwich in Norfolk to Tilbury in Essex. The transmission line will move electricity from offshore wind generators in the North Sea to a substation close to the Thames.
It's critical to connecting clean green energy into the national grid. So the offshore wind farms will connect into the national grid, and Norwich to Tilbury will facilitate 6 gigawatts of clean green power. 6 gigawatts is enough to power 6 million homes across the UK.
That's an ancient woodland just over here.
Yeah.
That's an oldish woodland here.
On his 400-acre arable farm near Billericay, Stephen Hart is joined by local MP Richard Holden. Stephen's been told 4 pylons will be built in his fields.
Because of the size of the machinery, the roads that they're proposing to build are substantial, and that will actually destroy the farmland for maybe decades into the future.
Are you getting compensation?
Yes, a very small one-off payment for each pylon, which really doesn't cover the economic impact.
Realistically, you can't stop this plan, can you?
We're going to do everything we can to get the government to think again, but you know the government has a massive majority, the Labour government in Parliament. It can ram this through if it really wants to. I'm just asking them to think again and actually think about the long-term interests of the people of this country.
Pylons and power lines are a familiar sight here, but the new ones will be much bigger and topped by red lights to alert pilots. National Grid says burying the cables underground would cost more than 5 times as much. Opposition to the power lines in this part of Essex seems to be growing. The golfers have been joined by environmentalists, landowners and politicians. But it's a battle which may already have been lost. This is what the Prime Minister told ITV News when he was asked about the project.
If you want lower bills, and I think most people watching this, most businesses and families would say, yes, I do want that, it means we need the infrastructure with it. And that does mean pylons in some places. So I'll be honest with people about that. You know, if you want lower bills, there's a sort of trade-off in terms of the infrastructure that comes with it.
The campaigners aren't deterred.
77,000 people have received letters about these proposals from National Grid. The next stage is the plans get submitted to the Planning Inspectorate for examination, and we'll be fighting through that process for better alternatives, after which, if we need to, we'll go through the courts and we'll keep challenging.
Work on the new pylons is expected to start next year, with the power line due to be commissioned in 2030. Simon Harris, ITV News, Tilbury.